Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers offseason program is nearing its end. The team finished out OTAs this week. The only thing left, a mandatory minicamp next week that will last 3 days. Jair Alexander, who's still in negotiations with the team over a way to get him back in the fold after missing all but 1 week of the offseason program, will reportedly attend the mandatory minicamp, even if there's no resolution. That doesn't guarantee he's going to be back with the team this fall, but fellow cornerback Keyshawn Nixon says he's hopeful.
I love 2-3 to death. That's my boy. If he come back and he's here, would love to have him. I'd love to play with Jair. That's just what it is. Since I've been here, Jair pushed me to be really who I am because it's always like friendly competition between me and him. Whatever happens, happens. We don't have control over that. If you're here, we're gonna rock out. If you're not, we still gonna rock out. So that's just how it goes.
Again, the Packers will host their mandatory minicamp June 10th through the 12th. Then the team is off until training camp begins later next month. Turning to Wisconsin, they're hosting another big group of prospects this weekend on official visits. Four-star running back Amari Latimer visited last week for his official visit, but he's back on an unofficial visit this weekend as Badgers try to get the commitment from the Georgia product.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers back in action tonight as they open a series against the Padres at American Family Field. Chad Patrick will go for the Crew, who have won 9 of 10. San Diego comes in, having lost 2 straight. Going to send Randy Vasquez to the mound. First pitch, 7-10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
There's about a 9-second difference, shot clock and game clock. Gildas Alexander spins, pulls up, jumper. Off the mark, won't go. Rebound, Neesmith. The Pacers with a chance to win it. Final seconds, no fouls to get him. Halliburton looking. Halliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 0.3 of a second remaining. Timeout, OKC. Tyrese Halliburton does it again.
Terrible night overnight here in Oklahoma City. A lot of upset people because Tyrese Halliburton is unequivocally having the greatest run of clutch shooting we have seen in the history of the sport.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
It's Mike Breen's call on ESPN last night. I thought it was a good call. I saw a lot of tweets earlier today. Oh, Mike Breen is washed or the broadcast didn't sound good. I have mixed feelings on the trio of Mike Breen and Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson. Mike Breen is still excellent. That booth is still working through some things. We're actually going to talk about that later on in the show. But I thought that call was very good. That was game 1 of the NBA Finals last night. That's where I want to begin. But I know for many of you, it's not your favorite subject. So, as it is Friday, the phones are wide open. And I'll come to you in the first segment if you're ready. And if you want to talk about the Brewers or the Packers or hockey or golf, I don't care. It's up to you. I'll give you my opening take on the NBA Finals last night because that's what was on last night. There was no Brewer game last night. There's no Packers practice today. So that's where we will begin. That's where we will begin. And then we're off and running from there. Who knows where the show is going to go. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Fins up, by the way. It's Friday. Back in studio, so able to take your phone calls. And it is nice to be back in studio after a 3-day little road trip with Bill between La Crosse and Eau Claire. Thanks so much again to Flipside Pub and Grill and the folks at Copeland Park and La Crosse Loggers for having 2 shows in La Crosse. And then Wild Ridge Golf Course and everyone involved with the Junior Achievement Golf outing yesterday. That was a really fun show to do. It was outside. We were looking right over the beautiful 11th green as the course kind of meanders up towards the clubhouse before going down and under Kane Road. Is it TT? Or I can't remember what county highway that is, to the other side and up the hill. It's absolutely beautiful and really, really cool. But happy to be back in studio today and taking your calls and having all of my buttons and everything kind of where I'm used to. So like I said, it's a Free Phones Friday, 608-321-1670. I'll come to you for a segment. If you're ready, line them up and we'll go to you if you want to talk Brewers or Packers or anything else that's going on. NHL, Stanley Cup Finals. I'm even enjoying watching a little bit of that and talking about a little bit of that. One guest tonight going to be at the very end of the show, our friend Ryan Glasspiegel from Front Office Sports. He put out a really interesting story at Front Office today about the NBA Finals broadcast and how a lot of fans are just underwhelmed by it. There's no big logos on the court, the broadcast, the pregame, the starting, lineups aren't announced. It's just been very stripped back. And Ryan is connected as anybody in the sports media world. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with him and some other things that are trending around sports and sports media. And he's a big Packers guy, Badger, UW-Madison alum. So we're going to talk with him at the very end of the show. We might make him listen to a little Jimmy Buffett when he stops by. But until then, wide open for your phone calls at 608-321-1670. What we saw last night in Game 1 of the NBA Finals is an extension of what we saw in the conference finals, especially an extension of what we saw in the second round between the Knicks and the Celtics in the East specifically. I've seen the same song and dance over and over and over again, not just with the Pacers, although we're certainly seeing some repetition with the Pacers because they have a tendency for falling behind and then pulling off these miraculous comebacks. And normally they're punctuated by a shot made by Tyrese Halliburton. Although a lot of the work last night down the stretch in the fourth quarter was done by Obi Toppin, who hit a bunch of threes, and then Nembhard, who hit that nasty step back over SGA. And as was the case in many of their previous comebacks, I think the Pacers threw up some prayers, and those prayers were answered. Like Miles Turner banked in a three. Nembhard's been good. He's not that good. He's not dribble, step back to the left, can one on the road over SGA good. But these shots keep going down. So maybe at some point we do need to just accept that these Pacers players are that good. But it followed the same blueprint of a lot of their other wins throughout the postseason. And I could bang you over the head with the Pacers are the first team since the Cincinnati, Red Dogs or something, to come back from this many points, this many times, with this much time left on the clock. We've been referencing those statistics all throughout the postseason. That's nothing new. I'm also seeing repetition, not just in the games that the Pacers have played, but the way that folks are reacting to these games. And what drives me nuts about sports talk radio and television this time of year is no one can properly react to the first game of a playoff series. No one can do it. Everyone either overreacts, and that's, part and parcel with sports talk. It's over, it's done, which is never the case. This year, I think people have underreacted more than they've overreacted. When the Knicks beat the Celtics in Game 1, everyone's like, well, that won't happen again. Well, okay, even if it doesn't, it happened once. That game's in the books. As Ted Davis would say, it's in the bank earning interest. Like, that game happened. That's real. We can't just cast that off as a game that doesn't count because it was some sort of statistical outlier or it, had some sort of unlikely outcome. That game happened. We can't just ignore it. And this postseason, so many people underreacting to these outcomes. And I know a lot of people are like, well, the Pacers hit a bunch of prayers down the stretch, and they did. But Indiana had 17 more turnovers than Oklahoma City. They took 16 fewer field goal attempts on the road and won. I still have real questions about the Thunder. I know they beat the brakes off of the Wolves, and everybody just kind of penciled or even wrote them in pen in as NBA champions. And I kind of think they still have a great chance to win the series, but I don't know why everyone is so hell-bent on underreacting to the first game of a playoff series this year. Because I hear so many people like, I'll still take the Thunder in 5. I'll still take the Thunder in 6. Okay. What happens if the Pacers win on Sunday? Are we still just going to go down with the ship saying, that won't happen again, that won't happen again, that won't happen again? It keeps happening. And even if it doesn't happen again, who's to say that the Pacers couldn't win another game on the road in this series? Not that they'll have to, because they just won back home court advantage, starting with a win in Game 1 in Oklahoma City. Who's to say they can't win another game a different way? Or who's to say they can't steal another game down the stretch in a different way? Like, I just don't know why everyone is so hell-bent on underreacting to these games. I think there are still serious questions about the Thunder. They feel a lot, to me, like the early Budenholzer Bucks. I think they're a much better version of the early Budenholzer Bucks, but they're still, I still think they're limited offensively. And we saw that down the stretch where like they just couldn't really get good shots. SGA can take contested shots or try to get to the rim, much like Giannis, right, did early on, and he did even when they won their title. But other than that, it's a lot of drive and kick. And I just don't want games down the stretch being decided by a calculator. Well, that's a good shot. That open three in the corner is a good shot. Okay, but is it a good shot when everyone's butthole is tight and the game's close? And like, no, I don't know. I think the Thunder is still limited offensively. I'd pick the Pacers right now. How could you not? I don't get it. I don't understand how people keep walking away from the first game of some of these series saying, well, that won't happen again. I don't know, man. It seems to keep happening again. And then they'll win game 2 or they'll win game 3. And what are we going to discount that because, somebody made a lot of threes or, somebody missed a lot of shots? I just react to the games. The games are real. React to the game that just took place. Don't walk away from a game saying, well, that was weird and won't happen again. Well, then why watch the games? Why watch the games? Just check the final score, run it through your simulator or your calculator to figure out what, and then move on. Why even take the time to watch the games? To your phone calls. We can talk about whatever today. Free Phones Friday. We haven't been able to take phone calls since Monday, so I'm all about it. 608-321-1670. Let's go right to it. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Denny from home.
Hey, Denny. How the heck you been?
Happy Fins Up, buddy.
Fins Up Friday, Denny, indeed.
Been good. Hey, I think everybody really estimated Rick Carlisle's coaching. I mean, he won the championship with the Mavericks back in 2011.
Yeah.
And he's very strategic, unlike our Bucks ex-coaches, and his ability to adapt to things is unreal because, like I said, I watched that game. How many times did the Thunder have that game? The first half, they just basically were like glue on the Pacers.
Yeah.
And then the second half, they were starting to blow the little bunnies and stuff too, down the stretch and that. And I totally agree with you. I don't think you could count Carlisle out at all. I really don't. He's a hell of a coach, and I think he proved it last night that being down in a place where it's unfamiliar for him and stuff,
yeah.
I think he got those guys playing good ball.
And they're believing, right? Because the more comebacks these guys, complete, well, now if they fall behind 12 points in the next game, they're going to be even more confident about it. They're not going to lose their edge or they're not going to lose their confidence.
And who had to make the last shot, though? You know what I'm saying?
Yep, it was Halliburton. But Halliburton, I don't even know how many points he scored, but that fourth quarter was a lot of Nembhard. There was a lot of Obi Toppin.
Yep, he had 12 points up till that time when he made the 3.
Yeah, that's a really balanced. Holy cats. Siakam had 19, Nesmith had 10, Turner had 15, Nembhard had 14, Halliburton had 14, Toppin had 14, McConnell had 9. That's really balanced. Holy crap.
Hey, it's go Brewers on this 10-game homestand.
You feeling good?
This is where we really got to start, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to compete with them.
Yeah.
I mean, feel really bad about Woodruff being in the IL again. Jeez.
That sucks.
I mean, if he's got any luck at all, right? I mean, serious.
He might be back by now. And I feel horrible for Woodruff because he's earned the opportunity to come back and finally play baseball with his teammates at the major league level again. I'm still skeptical that his arm and his stuff has rebounded fully to where it needs to be to pitch in the majors and to help the major league club. I'm still skeptical on that, but it sucks for him. It's just it's one thing to hurt your shoulder. The weird thing is his shoulder has progressed, and knock on wood, that hasn't given him any issues. That recovery has gone as good as possible. It's okay, so you stepped weird with an ankle, and then you take a line drive to the elbow. It's really bad luck. I don't think if you stuck Brandon Woodruff in the starting rotation right now, I don't think the Brewers are any better or worse. I think they already have a lot of Brandon Woodruff level players or better in the starting rotation. Probably same with Logan Henderson and Nestor Cortez and all these guys. They have a group, Tobias Myers, who's in the minors. I don't think Woodruff immediately comes up and helps this ball club. I don't know if he's even going to be able to stick at the major league level. He'll get to try it, but I don't think he's going to step in and immediately be this dominant presence. That would be great. I hope that happens. But I'm skeptical, and I think the Brewers are too. His velocity isn't quite there. Not a surprise. I don't know that his command is totally there. Not a surprise. He's earned the opportunity to try. And I hurt for him because to take a line drive off the elbow, what are the chances? That just sucks. But as I've been saying the last couple of weeks, I don't think, well, you got Woodruff coming back. Okay, we got Garrett Mitchell coming back too. I don't think he's going to help at all. You know what I mean? I think Blake Perkins, okay, nice defensive replacement. Sure, that'll help. But I don't think the Brewers have anybody coming back, Brandon Woodruff included, who's immediately going to step in and be a massive improvement on whoever they're going to replace. 608-321-1670, another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. Early Darnell. What's up?
Yeah, you got me on the way home from work here on a nice Friday afternoon. So,
excellent.
Listen, with Halliburton, I don't like the guy. I just don't. I
don't like him either. Screw him.
Years, right? But my God, if he just doesn't make these most insane plays, he's got some all-timers already, NBA history buzzer beater type shots, and he's 27. You know what I mean? Like, he's a young guy, and I don't like him personally, but it's impressive, and I have to give him props. I do. You know, he was cheeks all game, and then he just cold-blooded at the end of that game, down one, not even tied, but down one, and still cold-blooded. It was hard to watch.
Probably should have been 2 because they called some stupid lane violation. Like, okay. But
and that's fair. But I mean, you know, you play with the cards you're dealt, right?
Totally. I'm not trying to minimize. I'm just complaining because, and I think this has been clear on the show, Darnell. I respect the heck out of the Pacers because they play this brand of basketball that I think is fun. And if more of the league played like that, it would be a better product. People would appreciate basketball and watch more basketball. But because they beat the Bucks, I don't really like them. But I certainly respect them. And
they've ended the Bucks season 2 years in a row, right? Which just like gives you a little bit extra animosity towards them. It's just like the 49ers. If they didn't eliminate the Packers every single postseason, I probably wouldn't hate them as much as I do, right? Yeah. But they do, so I hate them, even though I respect the product on the field, even if it hasn't yielded them any Super Bowls, right? Yeah. That aside, you know, it was actually a fun game to watch. It's the first like NBA playoff game that I like really enjoyed watching, and I could really care less about, you know, the lineups, and I watch it on mute anyways because I'm just not a Doris Burke fan, never have been. Once she started talking about Kawhi's hands a couple years ago, I was just like, dude, just shut up. Like, I'm sorry, dude. It's not a woman thing. It's not anything like that. It's just like,
you say it's a woman thing, Darnell. Do you not like women?
I said it's not.
You said it's not. Okay. I'll make that very clear.
No, it's not. Again, not because she's a woman. It's the fact that it's just some of the stuff she says on air is just like, oh my God, please just stop talking. But anyways, that aside, you know, it was a great product on the court last night, and people that didn't like it, that's fine. I think everyone needs to find something to complain about. I thought it was a great game, and on top of that, doesn't it kind of feel like a little bit of a Churio 2 home run night tonight?
Ooh.
At least to me.
Okay, so I like that feel a lot. I feel like we're witnessing what we saw last year with Jackson Churio, where he's getting it going kind of as the weather warms up and as we get into the month of June. Darnell, that's a good call. He does not dislike women. He has nothing against women. I misheard him there. That's my bad, Darnell. We'll actually talk about Doris Burke and some of the things with ESPN and the presentation of the finals in the second hour with Ryan Glasspiegel, who does great work for Front Office Sports. So we're going to talk more about that. I thought, Darnell, you were going to say the classic thing where it's like, if you didn't like that game last night, then you just don't like basketball. It's very different than previous finals where it's best player and superstar versus best player and superstar, or 1 and 2 versus 1 and 2, like Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray versus, you know, whoever, or Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown versus whoever on the other side. We're not just watching superstars ISO, dribble, bring me a screen, drive, kick. Like it's not that version of basketball in this matchup. And I think that's good. You might lose some people because some people want to turn on the game and I want to see Jokic versus Tatum, or I want to see Donovan Mitchell versus whoever, but it's not what this series is. Now you get to watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had 38 last night, which is, that's another thing. They got 38 from Shai, 17 from Jalen Williams, 15 from Dort. And Caruso had a nice game too. He was in double digits. And Indiana turned the ball over a bunch and they still won. And I'm supposed to sit here, as many are today, and be like, well, I'll still take the Thunder in 5 or 6. Why? Why are people so strict at coming off of what they believe or what they think? Like, we're allowed to change our opinions when we see a game. I don't understand. Like, why are we watching the games then? Like, I thought the Thunder had a lot of things go their way last night and they still couldn't win. But the Pacers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players in double digits. TJ McConnell had 9, so almost in double digits. Basically 7 players at or almost at double digits. It's a different NBA, partly because of this collective bargaining agreement, but also because the Pacers are really good and the Thunder are really good. And I think even if the CBA was slightly different, I think these are still in their current forms 2 of the better teams in the NBA, and that would have played itself out in this finals. One more calls. It's a Free Phones Friday, and then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Chris in Chippewa.
Hey, Chris. What's going on?
Well, So Free Throw Friday. So can I talk some Packers?
Yes, please. Yeah, give us some What do you want to talk about?
All right. So I'm gonna drop probably a pretty unpopular opinion right now. Something I've been really mulling over for the last few weeks and arguing with all the rest of my fan friends. I don't understand why we as a fan base and the pundits on TV are thinking that Jordan Love is supposedly as great as everybody seems to think he is. We're basing that off like a 6-game stretch where he played out of his mind. The rest of his games, if you really go back and look at it, have either been bad to mediocre.
Okay.
The first half of his first season was not great, and then he just exploded out of nowhere in the second half. Give him credit. Second season, not awesome. Yes. Was he dealing with some injuries? Sure. Did a couple of receivers have a lot of drops?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you eye test it. Like, I don't know how much weight you put in PFF, but they didn't even rank him as a top 10 quarterback.
The Jordan Love conversation, Chris, is really interesting. And we can pick this up on the other side of the break. Have a great weekend, Chris. And I appreciate you bringing this up because I'm hoping people just I've kind of hit every Packers angle from OTAs this week. We've talked about Jenkins and we've talked about Jair, talked about Dobbs yesterday. We could do Jordan Love on the other side of this break. I kind of throw the first half of his rookie year out. If he had come in as a rookie and immediately joined a team that was established with veterans, then I would judge it more. But I think it was a bunch of kids trying to figure out how to play football. So the second half of the season, they all figured out. They were great. And then in year number 2, there was some great. There was plenty of bad. There was a lot in the middle. We can attack this more, and we can talk about this more on the other side of this break. Because I think a lot of people bang the drum and talk constantly about Jordan Love is awesome. Jordan Love is awesome. If you don't think Jordan Love is awesome, then you don't know football. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know football, but I think there's a lot of Jordan Love's career that is yet to establish itself. And a lot of people want to talk about him like he's great. It's confirmed. And I'm with you, Chris. I'm not sure that I'm there yet. So we'll continue the show next, take more of your phone calls, and I want to pick up this Jordan Love conversation in exactly 3 minutes on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your 2 wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show, and it's a Free Phones Friday. So any moment, anytime, call in, whatever's on your mind. I've kind of said my piece throughout the week, and it's certainly helped. We haven't taken calls the last 3 nights, and we haven't had any guests because we've been remote, which has been a blast. But it's basically just been me and a microphone for the last 3 days. So everything on my mind as it relates to the Packers or the Brewers, I've kind of got all my takes off my chest. So today is a little bit more for you. Like, what's the one Packers thing now post OTAs that we haven't talked about? What's the one Brewers thing that you want to talk about going into the weekend? Before we went to that last break, we talked to Kristen Chippewa, who said, you know what, Grant, I'm still a little skeptical of Jordan Love. He's been mediocre or average more often than he's been elite now through his first 2 years of his career. And Chris was like, look, he's dealt with injuries, and the rest of the offense around him certainly hasn't been perfect at all times either. So I don't think Chris is just being a hater. But if I'm remembering what Chris said correctly, and I'm getting the spirit of his call, and I think I am, his frustration is that so many people who cover the Packers or talk about the Packers or talk about sports, on ESPN or national sports talk radio or television, are like, wants to talk down at anybody who has any questions or any comments or concerns about Jordan Love. And I'm like, okay, I can think of a couple examples. I went back through my bookmarks. This was earlier this week. This is on Monday, in fact. Dan Orlovsky tweeted, anyone who says Jordan Love regressed last year doesn't look at quarterback play properly. Thanks. Have an awesome day. And then there's so many Packers accounts, in the mentions, like 100%, like, yeah. And I see someone like Zach Jacobson, who's a Peter Bukowski variant. I like Peter a lot. I just use him as a stalking horse anytime I need to describe people on the internet. Who's constantly talking about Jordan Love's a superstar, Jordan Love's a superstar. Why are you questioning it? Why are you asking? Why are you concerned? Why are you thinking anything else? He's awesome. It's been proven. Put it to bed. Move on, move forward. And I think Jordan Love is their quarterback for a while. I'm not saying at any point they're going to look to move off of him. I'm not going to say that this contract was a mistake. But I think we're allowed to have certain conversations about Jordan Love, right? Or do we just have to accept that he's awesome and that he's the third straight and that he's a superstar? And why would you ever ask any questions or be concerned about anything or anybody? Why? It's proven. Are you an idiot? Do you not watch the games? Well, you just must not be very smart. I don't know. I don't look at EPA per play that often. I don't look at passer rating or any of the other, completion percentage, over expect, all these things. These are stats that I understand and that I sometimes reference, especially when actual smarter football people write about them and present that information in a way that makes sense, in a way that I can consume. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dumbass. Maybe I just watch the football games and draw opinions from what I see during the game. Last year, I saw a version of Jordan Love that still had plenty of high-end throws. Right? That throw against the Lions on the Thursday night game that everyone wants to reference. And I see the clip all offseason long where he's rolling to his left and he's taking a hit and he kind of sidearm slings one out right in front of Christian Watson. It's like, wow, what a throw. Well, the arm talent and big play ability has never really been a question with Jordan Love. Right? He can make throws that nobody else can make or very few other quarterbacks can make. That's been the book on him really since he's been drafted, going all the way back to Utah State, going back to the 3 years where he sat behind Aaron Rodgers, where we read Tyler Dunn every couple of months, put out a story like, this guy can sling it. We've been aware of those throws. We understand that he can make those throws. The problem is, might be one or two of those throws a game. What about the rest of it? Right? I always reference Tom Brady, and I refused this for a long time because I watched Brady growing up and I compared him to Rodgers and to Peyton Manning. Like, that guy isn't half the talent that Rodgers is. He can't throw on the move. He can't freelance. He doesn't have the big throw ability. He doesn't have the athleticism or the mobility. Like, I watch these other quarterbacks growing up. I'm like, they're all better than Brady. Stop telling me that Brady's the best. And as I've gotten older, maybe more mature or maybe more jaded, I kind of understand now what made Brady so special and what made him so successful is that down in and down out, he knew where to throw the ball. And even if it wasn't a big play, even if it wasn't a sexy play, he knew where the ball needed to go, right when it needed to go there, and right specifically where it needed to be, and he would execute play after play after play. And Brady had a good arm, and he could make big throws when big throws were required, or when the correct throw was over-the-shoulder bomb 40 yards down the field. He could do that, but he didn't bog down his game hunting for the big play and hunting for the big throw. It was process-oriented and driven and very replicable and sustainable. That's the part of Jordan Love's game that really needs to smoothen out. We know that he can make the big throws, and honestly, I'm not really that upset about an occasional interception where he's trying to make something happen. You're going to have the high-end throws, and with Jordan Love, goes all the way back to college, he can get in stretches where he throws a lot of picks. Let's say that's 10% and 10% of the game, the good throws and the bad throws. Okay. What about the other 80%? That's where Jordan Love, I believe, lacked last year. And Jordan Love's a big part of that. I think a big part of those 80%, that 80%, is wide receiver play and blocking and Jordan Love's health. I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy. The day that I will start to question or really be concerned or consider it of a possible ceiling with Jordan Love is the day that I watch this Packers offense where Jaden Reed is awesome and Dontavian Wicks is awesome and Matthew Golden is exactly who they drafted him to be and Romeo Doubs is healthy and his mind is right and he's not skipping practices and he's catching the ball like when everything's clicking and Tucker Kraft is awesome and they're running the piss out of the ball and it looked like, oh, look at this. This offense is deep and they're nasty and they make big plays and they step up in big moments. In that environment, when Jordan Love isn't succeeding at a high level, then I'll start to worry. Jordan Love wasn't perfect last year, but he was one of the problems across an offense that had plenty of issues. We talked about all of the receiver-induced incompletions. And I believe the stat is from Warren Sharp, the highest percentage of receiver error-caused incompletions. The Packers were one with a bullet. Jaden Reed, among players with over 60 targets, was 103rd of 103 eligible receivers. Dontavian Wicks was 102. So let's say, again, take out the 10% of the big-time throws. Take out the 10% of the crappy throws or the mistakes, because you'll have that. Let's talk about the other 80%. That 80% is reliant on the quarterback to make the correct reads and get the ball out. It's also on the wide receiver to be in the right spot and then to catch the ball. And I think there were times last year where Jordan Love struggled within that 80%. I think there were lots more times where the wide receivers just didn't make plays for him. And then he was certainly hampered by the injury too. If Reed and Wicks both take a big step this year, I think that's going to do wonders for Jordan Love's ability to play within that 80%. The big time, let it hang out, arm talent, wow throws are always going to be there. And he's always going to have some boneheaded mistakes. I'd like for him to limit those mistakes a little bit. Like, if we're going to try a gutsy throw, let's maybe not do it 7 yards deep in our own end zone like he did in LA against the Rams. Time and place to take some risks. It will be when Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks become much more polished and Jordan Love still struggles within that 80% of his game after subtracting, the kind of stupid throws and the big time throws. When Jordan Love struggles in that environment, then I'll be a little bit more worried. But I'm 100% with Chris and Chip with it. Like so many people want to say, well, it's decided. Jordan Love's a stud. Are you stupid? Do you not watch the games? Do you not look at the stats? He's a baller. He's a superstar. Well, I think he's a better option than a lot of teams have at quarterback. And I think the Packers, in paying him and continuing down this path, are doing the right thing. But don't tell me that this court case is open and shut. And it's in the books and it's done. There's a lot left to be decided. And when you talk to most Packers fans, our Mike Clemens or Packers media people, our Mike Clemens included, they say, we got some data in year 1, and then we got some data in year 2. Year 3 is going to show the real Jordan Love and which parts of his game and which parts of the data through the first 2 years are most representative of who he is. And I think year 3 will do that. But so many people are calling it now before we get to year 3. And I think that's silly. And I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate you telling me, what are you, dumb? You know, watch games. Jordan Love's a star. He's a stud. I hope so. And I still think that's very comfortably within a range of possible or even somewhat likely outcomes. But it's not an open and shut case. And I see tweets from Zach Jacobson and Dan Orlovsky and Bukowski too. But that's because Bukowski's just always firing off tweets, and that's why I love him. Back to your phone calls. It's a free phones Friday, 608-321-1670. Some of your texts as well, and comments on the live stream. Anything you want to discuss, Packers, Brewers, NHL, NBA, all of it's on the table, and then Ryan Glasspiegel coming up in about an hour and 10 minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
That's Trevor Sikkema setting up Dalton Wasserman, friend of the network. He's never been on this show, but he's been on with Bill. And I apologize to the folks on the live stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I don't think if my engineering mechanical brain is serving me correctly, I think you guys probably couldn't hear that. So I apologize. But basically, Dalton Wasserman saying, look, Matthew Golden's going to give them a vertical threat. Jordan Love is now healthy. Josh Jacobs, to bring the safeties down into the box, he should be a candidate to really, really take a big jump from last year to this year. And I guess I get that logic. I just feel like we were saying a lot of the same things going into last year. It's like, well, holy balls, now you got Josh Jacobs, and that's going to take so much attention away from the defense. And so is Matthew Golden, is he the difference? Is Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks going from year 2 to year 3? Personally, I think that's the biggest difference. That's it for me. And hopefully Matthew Golden gives them a good vertical threat. And hopefully Matthew Golden has games where throughout the season he'll blow up and take advantage of a mismatch and can be something close to a number 1 wide receiver. I don't think the Packers need a tried and true number 1 wide receiver. I think all of the guys who are already there need to just be better than they were last year. And I think I brought that up with Mike Renner last time he was on. It's like, I don't think the Packers' issue last year was that they didn't have a number 1. It's that all of these guys who were all supposed to be really, really good number 2s weren't really good number 2s. They oftentimes look more like 3s or 4s or guys who like really aren't anything, like Dontavian Wicks. So I think Reed and Wicks and their continued improvement, or I guess furthered improvement, let's say, because I don't know that either did a whole lot of improving last year. It looked like a lot of the same from their rookie year to year 2. If those two guys get more consistent and continue to take a jump, or continue to grow as pros, I should say, not continue to take a jump, but continue to grow, I think that's the biggest factor for this season. But I'm with Chris and Chippewa, and I get his frustration. He texts in and says, the matter of the fact is Love has played more bad or mediocre football than he's played great football. The worst thing is that this happened to the Packers in the last year of, or he said, the worst thing that happened to the Packers in the last 3 years is the second half of Jordan Love's first season. I also think the Packers got backed into paying him a large contract because of his great second half of the first season. Here's the thing. If Jordan Love hadn't balled out down the stretch, it's not like the Packers would have been in some amazing spot either. When you draft a quarterback and sit them on the bench for 3 years, you're going to be in a tough spot. Whether they play awesome in a small sample, or they play poorly in a small sample, or they play mediocre in a small sample, you're just not giving yourself a lot of runway when you draft a quarterback and then their first stretch of playing time comes in basically a contract year because they got to decide on the 5th-year option or, all these things, decide on an extension. Otherwise, they're kind of going into a lame duck year. They could hit free agency down the stretch. No one likes that. So I don't like overemphasizing or belly aching too much about how Jordan Love played down the stretch because the Packers left that door wide open by drafting a quarterback who then sat for 3 years. That's on the Packers. Nobody made them do that. We don't get to feel bad for the Packers or the circumstances because, well, I mean, they only had one season to judge him, and then he played so good down the stretch. Yeah, they only had one season to judge him because they drafted him and sat him on the bench for 3 years, which everyone praised, and there's, I think, plenty of good things that come of a situation like that. There are also some difficulties. Trying to figure out what to do contractually is definitely one of those difficulties. I don't think Jordan Love's contract is hurting them right now. It might hurt him in 2 or 3 years. But right now, they've been able to add Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, and then Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks in subsequent off seasons. I think they're doing okay. The money that's currently being paid to Jordan Love is not hurting their ability to build up the team. Jordan Love just wasn't good enough last year, and plenty of pieces around the offense weren't good enough as well. I don't think it was just Jordan Love last year. But again, you listen to people like Orlovsky or Bukowski. It's just all the polls, really. It's just the Polish. It's just the freaking polls. Who would say Jordan Love's awesome? End of debate. I mean, have you been watching the games? Are you stupid? Are you silly? Are you simple? Like, what are you looking at? Well, yeah, I see plenty of good, and I see some bad, and that's going to be true of just about any quarterback. I think, and I've been barking up this tree for about a year, I think the quarterback that I look at as a reasonable comp for Jordan Love, like the player that Jordan Love should aspire to be, I think is Matt Stafford. That should be the goal. I think if he could become Matthew Stafford, that would be an excellent outcome. What about Mahomes? Okay, sure. Yeah, that would be great. But I'm talking reasonable. I think Matthew Stafford is a player that Jordan Love should study and watch and consider because he has all the arm talent in the world to throw at different arm angles, to put balls in places where most quarterbacks just can't. But then Stafford will also make some throws. I was like, what are you doing? Even at this age. And Stafford's what? In his mid-30s, late 30s. He was drafted in, picked in 2008, so he's a couple years younger than Rodgers. So in his late 30s, yeah. He'll make some throws even at this age when he's seen everything and experienced everything. He'll still make throws. We're like, what are you doing? But the idea with Matthew Stafford is put him on a team with good weapons, put him on a team with a half-decent defense, and he can get hot and win you a Super Bowl. And he got hot and won the Rams the Super Bowl. There will also be playoff games where I think Stafford will cost his team. And there'll be games where it's like, what, man, it's a weird game, stinky game for Stafford. Because he is a little hot and cold, but the arm talent is what drives it. The big playability is what drives it. Getting hot for a couple games in a row is going to be what drives it. And you just have to live with the occasional mistake or try to minimize the occasional mistake, which is true of most quarterbacks. Like Jordan Love is never going to be Aaron Rodgers with that touchdown to interception ratio. It's just not reasonable. It's not realistic. No quarterback is going to be that guy. Although Caleb Williams was kind of that guy last year. He was really turnover avoidant, really cautious with the ball, and just held the ball a lot too. So that was part of it. But I think Jordan Love should look at Matthew Stafford and say, how can I play my way into a career like that? Ride the arm talent, make a lot of plays with the arm talent, make some mistakes because that's who I am, but then make the throws to make up for the mistakes. And then do well enough in the routine plays. I'm saying the 80%. Let's say the big time throws are 10%. The bad mistakes are 10%. What about the other 80%? That's the meat and potatoes of your season and a meat and potatoes of your plays, percentage of your offense. And I don't think that percentage was nearly good enough for the Packers offense last year. Jordan Love, no doubt a part of that, but so were, some of the limitations and the youth, especially at wide receiver, specifically from Reed and Wicks. And then Dobbs missing games from concussions. That didn't help. And then getting suspended another game because, God, I guess we just suspend a player every year now, which maybe at some point we should talk about that. If that happens again this year, then we're going to start to wonder, okay, like Matt LaFleur, what are you doing? A little breaking baseball news. We could talk about that on the other side of this break as we wrap up hour number 1. It's a Free Phones Friday, so I'll get back to taking your calls on whatever at 5 o'clock, the top of the next hour.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Last couple of thoughts on our Jordan Love conversation. I think Stafford, that's the goal. That's the dream. And Rick comments on the live stream, Stafford equals Favre. Yeah, I think Stafford is a less talented version of Favre. I mean, if you took a bunch of steroids and fertilizer and you watered Stafford and made Stafford the most exaggerated, if you took all the sliders and the knobs and you turned everything up to 10, then yeah, you'd get Favre. Unbelievable throws, crazy arm talent, mixed with bonehead mistakes. Yeah, I think the core of Stafford's game is similar to the core of Favre's game. Favre won 3 straight MVPs. I know that there's plenty of discourse about Favre right now as the person. I'm just telling you as the player, I still somehow think he's underrated. The dude won 3 straight MVPs and did things on a football field that, I don't know that there's any humans that have done some of the things that he's done on a football field. And I think we're just so casual when we compare guys to Favre. It's you don't understand, because Favre is a lot of big throws, but then some silly interceptions. There's plenty of quarterbacks who made big-time throws and then mixed in some interceptions. Jay Cutler did that. Yes, Stafford does that too, but if you took Stafford and you multiplied him by 5 or 8 or 10, then you'd get Favre. So I'm thinking of Stafford as a little bit more of a contemporary comp, a little bit more recent, but also a little bit more realistic. If Jordan Love could be Matthew Stafford and carve out that kind of career, I think that would be an excellent outcome. And I think that would best explain and kind of compartmentalize some different parts of his game. Some breaking baseball news. Get back to your calls. It's a Free Phones Friday at the top of the hour at 5 o'clock. Your calls and thoughts on the Packers, the Brewers. If you have a thought on Game 1 of the NBA Finals, I'll take it. The Stanley Cup Finals. We're going to talk a little bit with Ryan Glasspiegel at the very end of the show from Front Office Sports about certain storylines, especially in the media presentation of the NBA Finals. We've already had some complaints about Doris Burke. I'm actually pretty indifferent on Doris Burke, but we'll talk about that later. A little breaking baseball news. Pat Murphy meeting with the media right now ahead of tonight's matchup said, this is from Jack Stern, who is excellent. Murphy said Brandon Woodruff could come back to pitching, quote, in short order once the swelling in his elbow subsides. Likely looking at multiple rehab starts once he heads back out, starting with a shorter outing and building back up from there. So Murphy says Brandon Woodruff shouldn't miss too much time, which means absolutely nothing because he says that about everybody. And then players end up, well, we'll see you in August. More breaking news, injury news in baseball. Brewers adjacent. Corbin Burns is going to have Tommy John. This was shared by Bob Nightingale. I'm just looking at Gabe Lack's story at USA Today. Corbin Burns, the former Cy Young winner, just made $210 million. Will have Tommy John surgery and miss the rest of the season and most of 2026. Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo made the announcement on Friday in Cincinnati, where his team was set to open a 3-game series against the Reds. Burns, who's 30, was 70 pitches into his 11th start of the season when he hopped in pain and mouthed to the dugout that the discomfort was coming from his elbow. He underwent an MRI on Monday and traveled to Los Angeles later in the week to visit with an orthopedic surgeon. He had posted a 2.66 ERA in 64 and a third innings, propping up an Arizona rotation and ball club that has been a significant disappointment this season. He's been one of the game's most reliable starters since 2021, making between 28 and 33 starts and pitching between 167 and 202 innings in the past 4 seasons. Very reliable. Again, 6-year, $210 million contract after 1 year in Baltimore, Cy Young in 2021 in Milwaukee, and a couple really good seasons there. Never pay pitchers long-term. Ever, 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 ever. Relievers, starters, anything in between. Never, ever, ever, ever. The Brewers would be dead in the water as an organization if they didn't, over the last 5 or 6 years, figure out how to develop pitching. Develop pitching in the lab, but then identify talent like Craig Yoho. We talked about the Brewers scout, and she was on the broadcast and in San Francisco for Yoho's debut, which I wonder if he'll be back up at any point. You need to be able to develop your own pitching, because without it, you're just dead in the water. Even teams with the most money, even the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets, and the Mets tried to do this their first year under Steve Cohen. They went and got DeGrom, and they paid Scherzer, and they played Verlander. It's like, okay, but they get hurt, or they're not any good. You need to be able to develop your own pitching in-house and utilize them and get the most of them while they're young, before they get hurt, before they get inconsistent, before they have Tommy John, and before they get expensive. This is also true of position players by and large, but position players long-term are typically more of a stable investment. But Brewers fans, I get this all the time. I was like, well, why should I invest? Why should I buy tickets, or why should I get invested in a team when I know that half of these guys or most of these guys are just going to walk to make big money elsewhere? And I would say, good. That's how it should work. Now, every once in a while, you're going to pay to retain guys. They paid Freddie Peralta. They paid Christian Yelich. They paid Aaron Ashby. Not that is compelling Pat Murphy to use him, which is an issue that we can talk about if that's really what moves it for you, and I don't think it is, but we can talk about Aaron Ashby usage in hour number 2, because Murph does need to use him more. You can pay and sign guys occasionally, but I always wonder, when Brewers fans bitch and complain, it's like, well, why should I get invested, and why should I buy in if I know that all of these guys are just going to leave and get paid elsewhere? I don't want to pay guys until they're 35. I don't think I want to extend William Contreras. He's here now for the prime years of his career. 2 years in a row with a broken finger, so sweet. But by the time he comes up in free agency and makes big-time money, he's not going to be as good. And he'll be worn down. And he'll probably get hurt more. And I don't want to pay for that. Let the Diamondbacks pay for that. Let other teams pay for that. I'm not interested. And you shouldn't be either. We're smart enough, we're mature enough to know that guys don't play their entire careers in one city, one organization. So get the best years, the cheapest years from those guys, and then let other teams overpay for the back nine, like the Diamondbacks. It's great. Now, they could have probably gotten more in that trade, but to the Orioles, it's a separate conversation. Hour number 2, we got some phone calls ready to go. 608-321-1670. Free Phones Friday continues next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, after a day off, the Brewers getting back in action tonight as the Padres come to American Family Field. Milwaukee comes into the night the hottest team in baseball, having won 9 of 10 to get to a season-best 5 games above 500. All but 3 of those wins came against teams with losing records. That won't be the case tonight with San Diego coming in, but manager Pat Murphy likes where they're at.
We've got a great team, like team chemistry. Those guys, they really pull for each other. So while on paper, we don't look like the best team in the world, we do pull things off.
Brewers will send Chad Patrick to the mound. He's 3-4 with a 2.97 ERA and has the backing of Murphy.
Chad Patrick continues to show that
he has the right stuff, meaning the right insides to pitch up here and pitch in big situations.
San Diego counters with Randy Vasquez. He's also 3-4 with a 3.99 ERA. Lasted just 3 1/3 innings in his last time out, giving up 4 runs against Pittsburgh. First pitch tonight is at 7:10. Meanwhile, Brandon Woodruff is back on the injured list after getting hit in the elbow by a liner earlier this week in what was supposed to be his last rehab start in the minors. It means his return to the majors is going to be delayed once again.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers closed out OTAs yesterday. They will be back in town next week for a 3-day mandatory minicamp, the final part of the offseason program before they are off until training camp begins later next month. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil-Pritt.
There's about a 9-second difference, shot clock and game clock. Gildas Alexander spins, pulls up, jumper. Off the mark, won't go. Rebound, Neesmith. Pacers with a chance to win it. Final seconds, no fouls to give. Halliburton looking. Halliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! With 0.3 of a second remaining. Timeout, OKC. Tyrese Halliburton does it again.
Terrible night overnight here in Oklahoma City. A lot of upset people because Tyrese Halliburton is unequivocally having the greatest run of clutch shooting we have seen in the history of the sport.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Happy to be back in studio, although I love being in Eau Claire. I love being in lacrosse, and I kind of wish I was still there tonight because state track is always a blast. And Dwight Yoakam's playing at the lacrosse center tonight with the Mavericks. It's going to be badass. Jealous I'm not still there. But I can listen to some Dwight Yoakam on the way home. I've been listening throughout the day. Not going to lie. It's a Free Votes Friday. Plenty of time in the second hour to take your thoughts on the Packers or the Brewers. Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals, whatever. Ryan Glasspiegel, Front Office Sports, going to join us for the last segment to talk about a story that he wrote about the NBA Finals I think is really interesting. You notice fewer logos on the court? Less fanfare in the pregame, a different boot. The finals has just been so stripped down, and a lot of people are noticing. He wrote a good column and a story that's up at Front Office Sports. You can find it at frontofficesports.com, or you can find him at The Sports Report on Twitter. Got a couple callers on hold, so let's rip it. Packers, Brewers, whatever's on your mind. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, it is Q.
Q. What's up, Q?
So I'm late to the party, but I never miss a Friday show.
I appreciate that.
Who are you cheering for in this NBA Final Series?
I guess the Thunder, because screw the Pacers, they knocked out the Bucks. But I tell you what, if the Thunder lose, I will also feel vindicated because I've also kind of been skeptical of the Thunder throughout. They feel like the best possible version of the Mike Budenholzer Bucks in 2018 and 2019. And I don't know. I feel like there's still a piece of vindication there for me. So I guess either the Pacers losing or the Thunder losing, I get something out of it either way.
I am also torn. And so I have a futures bet from last June on OKC. So my wallet is rooting for the Thunder. But my heart and my head is actually rooting for the Pacers. Like I'm convinced after last night that Tyrese Halliburton is the new era Steph Curry. Steph Curry did not get any credit or respect in the NBA until the Warriors became the Warriors. I mean, this guy is beyond clutch this offseason. And it's just been really fun to watch them play, even though they've knocked out my team. But I think it would vindicate Giannis and his legacy if two of the first round knockouts were from the champion this year. And then also as a Bucks fan, I think there are only two teams in the league that could possibly trade for Giannis. One is the Spurs and one is OKC.
Yes.
And we have seen owners do ridiculous things like the Mavs when they lose an NBA final series.
Yeah, right.
And I could see OKC just putting in all their chips, like Chet, Williams, all the picks, and just saying like, Giannis, come here. And like, I don't think the Bucks can turn that down. And I don't think Giannis would turn down playing with SGA. So like, my wallet says Thunder, but my head is telling me root for the Pacers.
You gotta stop tying up your money for an entire year with a future. I hope you got good odds, Q. And thank you for listening and calling in Milwaukee. The Thunder angle, as it relates to the Bucks in the offseason and Giannis's availability, is real. I don't think Giannis is going to ask for a trade. And the Bucks certainly aren't going to trade him if he doesn't ask for a trade. But just for a moment, let's consider if Giannis decides he wants out, it would benefit the Bucks greatly for the Thunder to not win this series, because then they'll feel motivation to maybe do something. Now, they operate in such a way, they're very patient, building it up the right way, the patient way. So maybe if the Thunder lose this finals, they still just like, well, we like our guys, we like our picks, and we're gonna keep at it. But I know if they win the finals, they won't even consider making a move for Giannis. Why would they? So if Giannis asks for a trade, which I don't think is going to happen, so I think it's moot anyways, but it's sports talk radio, so we can have fun with it. I think the Thunder losing is a more interesting outcome for a potential of Giannis being on the move this offseason. I don't get anything from losing to the eventual champ. Like, that doesn't vindicate anything for me. That's a different point of view. Like, I do not feel better about the Packers losing in the postseason if they lose to the team that wins the Super Bowl. That does nothing for me. They lost. It's frustrating. I don't really care who they lost to. If they lose to a team that then gets blown out in the next round, I feel no better or worse. They lost, and it's a zero-sum game at that point. I don't care. But Q, you can feel differently. Appreciate the call. Your thoughts on anything? 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Collect call from Eric on 990. Will you accept the risk?
I do accept the risk, Eric. What's going on?
Right.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Never miss a Friday show.
Appreciate
Never
that.
miss a Friday show.
Is lacrosse just packed to the gills with people?
I don't know. I'm heading out to the secret lair.
Okay, yeah. You're not down in the thick of things anyways, but it's going to be a busy weekend. Dwight, you didn't want to go see Dwight Yoakam at the Lacrosse Center tonight?
No, but I'm going to pass on Dwight Yoakam. I think I would pass if he was out here.
Come on. Really?
I don't know. No, it's just not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea.
All right. That's fair. Well, what did you, sorry, I always do this when you call in. I start asking you about things. What did you call in to talk about?
Oh, just about really nothing. We were talking about collect calls this morning, and I said it would be really expensive if this is all collect calls.
Yeah, you'd run up a tab. That type of approach bled into the Bill Michaels show today because we got 2 call-in reports from Ebo and Zach from the AmFam Championship at TPC here in Madison. So all of a sudden, Ebo and Zach are calling in, and I think Ebo had one, describing the sights and sounds. Very over-the-line feeling for a couple segments on the Bill Michaels show today.
These Pacers, but you can't deny them, can you? You can't deny how good they're playing.
No.
I mean, right? Just can't. It's like Tom Brady. You can't deny how good he is, right?
After a certain point, you just got to be like, okay, it shouldn't be happening like it is, but it keeps happening. So what are you going to do?
Right. So I don't know. I'm still kind of rooting for Oklahoma, I think, just a little bit. So
I am too. It's not going to ruin my summer if the Pacers win, but I would prefer to see the Thunder, I think.
It sounds like you're emotionally hedged, though. You got your emotional hedge bets out there either way.
Well, I need to get something out of it. You know what I mean? I need to get something. Like, if this team wins, I need to get content or I need to get some sort of satisfaction. Otherwise, why am I watching? Especially because my team's not in it,
Well, you watch it because you're a basketball fan. I mean, it's good basketball. There's no doubt about that.
It is good basketball. It's really, the Pacers the ball flies around and they cut and they move. It's not just one superstar trading isolation step back threes with another, which I enjoy and prefer.
I think that it's going to be way better than last year's finals already.
Last year's finals
sucked. Game.
And so did the conference finals. The conference finals sucked last year too. Maybe they did this year too, but whatever.
Well, you have a great weekend with Miss Wisco. I'm sure that you were away from her and lonely, and
it was a long week.
Take her out for dinner.
I was suffering greatly in lacrosse, Eric, and it was nice to see you at Flipside. Thanks for coming out. I saw Eric at Flipside, and I saw Uncle Packer at the golf course yesterday in Eau Claire. Why am I blanking on the name? I just want to say Edgewater, but that's a campground that I grew up. Wild Ridge. And I asked both, I was like, I bought a headset. Do you want to do a segment? And they both go, well, no, I'm a little shy. It's like, since when? Eric, since when are you shy? Since when is Uncle Packer shy? He's probably on hold right now. We'll keep the calls coming. It's 608-321-1670. Let's go Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant.
Ed. Hey, Ed, you know what? You haven't called in a while, which is fine. We're all busy. Wouldn't bother me if I didn't hear you calling other shows, competing shows, Ed. You think I don't? I keep my ear to the ground. What gives?
I just sometimes I listen to them because it's my time and I don't get on the radio very much.
That show does start an hour earlier than this one. So if that's when you're in the car, that's when you're in the car. I'm not going to hold that against you.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. I get it out once in a while. Like I'm right now running dinner errands, so I thought I'd chime in.
All right, and sorry to yell at you. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. Hey, I tried to get in yesterday because I wanted to hear Dobbs. I wanted to hear what Unit said about Dobbs' interview, and I found it. I wanted to hear his insight, and it was interesting how he answered to everybody, very selective, but very controlled. And I don't know. He sounds to me, he's sort of like he wouldn't commit to saying that he learned from last year, other than being a better communicator.
Yeah.
And I just thought, that's all you got?
Well, I can play you some of those questions and answers. I have his press conference, but I can't remember. He was asked 2 questions about his concussions and about getting suspended and missing a game. And to both questions, he basically said, I respect the question. I'm not going to talk about it. Very polite, but I thought that maybe the concussions is whatever, because he's not a doctor and neither are we. So what is he going to tell us? But with the getting suspended, that would have been a good opportunity for him to say, I wish I would have handled some things differently. And looking back, I've had some great conversations with coaches and teammates, and he didn't. He just punted on it.
Yep, I agree. That really kind of just made me do a double take when I heard him answer that way. I wanted more. And I know we're not going to get more because these guys are very select and controlled in how they want to come across. And he's such a quiet guy anyway. So I'm just like, it doesn't surprise me. But I just wanted more. He owes the fans, I shouldn't say he owes us. He should give the fans a little more something to maybe accept him more. Because right now, I don't know if he's that accepting as a player. I mean, he's not like other past Packer players like Jordy Nelson and maybe even Antonio and some of the other past wide receivers.
Yeah.
They own up to their mistakes. They own up. And I didn't think he owned up. I really wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just curious about that. I've been kind of chewing on that one for 24 hours. That's why I called in.
Great thing to chew on, Ed. And I wish that I had that audio at the tips of my fingers. I don't, but I can have it to immediately start the next segment here in a couple minutes. So we'll play that and then we can react to it together because that's perfect. We should talk about that. He was asked about the concussions, gave a non-answer, which is fine. What's he going to say? I got everything cleared with my doctors. I don't anticipate it being an issue. There's not a huge difference in saying that, and I'm not going to talk about that. Whatever. But the suspension thing is real, and I know a lot of Packers fans have said, well, come on, take it easy on the guy. Everyone's going through something and mental health and this and that. Yes. Just let the team know. It's a very simple thing to do. Just call the team doctor and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this right now. And I don't think I can come to practice today. And then let those folks do their job. Let the team doctor, the team psychologist come over and go through it or say, hey, well, can you come not to practice, but can you come here, and we can work this out. Or say, I think you just need to rest and recuperate and calm down. We'll deal with this in the morning. But you can't no call, no show. If you got to call, but you can't no call, no show. That's not acceptable no matter what's going on. So don't let him off the hook for that. He didn't address that yesterday. That was a choice. I'll play you that audio coming up. But first, a couple more calls before we go to break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer.
Hey, Uncle Packer. Speak of the devil. Nice to see you yesterday.
Hey. Yeah, it was great. I'd like to have gotten on with you, but I stutter sometimes, and you catch me when I'm off the radio.
No, that's fine.
And I appreciate that. But I was going to say a couple Packer things that I've been thinking about.
Yep.
Is that I'm excited this year about the fall. This is bad of the Lions. I really think the Lions are going to be poor. I don't think they're going to be 500.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but man, with Ragnow retiring now, That was a good offensive lineman.
They lost two of their starting
top-notch
offensive linemen.
center.
Yeah, two of them.
I know, and then all the offensive and defensive coordinators being gone, and I don't think Dan, although if Dan if he would have been the head coach of the Packers, I would love the guy. I like that kind of guy, their head coach. But I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off with just raw power.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough.
I don't know. It's the fourth downs for me. I've talked about this. I'm sure you've heard it. I think by and large they'll be able to have the same badass mentality and attitude and culture, and I feel like the coordinators will probably be fine. It's the 3 times a game when there's a 4th and 3. Ben Johnson always had the right play for that, and that was a big reason why the Lions were able to win a couple of extra games and always come out on the right side of those things. And I just don't know if the next offensive coordinator is going to be able to have that.
One thing about football, there's some really true things. One thing is that good teams are always tough up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think we're really gearing up to be, is strong up the middle. We're going to pound it up the middle, and even if it's not the push, but whatever, we're going to be strong up the middle. We got a great running back, and I don't think they're going to be able to compete with us, or we're going to be able to get into their offense with I don't know how to replace the Ragnow, but they're going to have to pull some magic out of their hat.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough year for them.
Yeah, and the thing that Detroit is going for them is that defense is going to be a lot healthier. They're getting a lot of those bodies back, which is something that they really struggled with down the stretch last year. Different coordinators, Uncle Packer. So you're absolutely right about that. I appreciate the call. Have a great weekend. You might be going up north to go fishing. I'd be concerned about the coordinators too as a Lions fan. But the biggest concern would be the 4th downs, because Dan Campbell's still going to want to go for it. And you can go for a lot of 4th downs and succeed, and you won't get bit. You won't get beaten if your offensive coordinator always has the right call. And Ben Johnson, man, just always had the right call. 4th and 3, 4th and 4, or 4th and goal. How many times did the Lions win games last year against the Packers, especially? Instead of settling for 3, they went for it on 4th and goal, had the perfect play. If Dan Campbell is going to continue to be that aggressive on 4th down, fine. That's part of what made him great. But if your offensive coordinator doesn't have the right plays and you're only hitting on those 4th downs 50% of the time, you're going to lose games. You're going to lose games that you would have won last year. Even if the running game and the passing game and all this, the structures of everything are still the same. In that small sample, those 4th downs, football is decided by, such small moments throughout the course of a game, and certainly true of the Lions. So that would be my concern, specifically about the departure of Ben Johnson. We'll come back in 3 minutes, get to a little bit of that Romeo Dobbs audio, and continue to take your calls as well. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. Ryan Glasspiegel going to join us in about 25 minutes. Be a fun way to wrap up the show. He's got a good story out at Front Office Sports today about the NBA Finals and how it's being presented on TV. I think complaining about announcers is kind of lame. Doris Burke has bothered me, not because I don't like Doris Burke. I think she's good. But she's now in a role where she has to be Van Gundy or Mark Jackson and not just be an analyst, but provide some entertainment too. And I think that's led her to kind of announce in a way that isn't, like, it's not her. And if you watched on ABC or ESPN last night, like, there's no fanfare. There's no nothing. Almost like it's intentional from ESPN. And Ryan Glasspiegel, our friend from Front Office Sports, wrote about that. So he's going to join us at the end of the show, talk about a couple different things. I want to get back to the phone calls because it's Free Phones Friday. But I want to play for you what Uncle Packer was talking about with Romeo Dobbs. So he was asked about concussions. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I left the questions in, so I don't have to set them up, and there'll be no room for misinterpretation. Here it is.
There's no long.
Jason Wilde, courtesy of the hat tip on the question.
There's no long-term concerns about that recurring. What have they kind of told you about where you're at?
I respect their question. I would appreciate just kind of sitting that to the side right now. Okay. So I appreciate that though.
I appreciate it though. Very respectful. A little bit of a follow-up on a concussion, and I think this question, something like, not going to be recurring. What did they tell you about that?
Ron, when were you cleared?
When were you cleared? Yes, that's right.
Ron, when were you cleared? Like, what point in this offseason were you cleared medically?
I respect their question, but respectfully, I would love to just.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I love how the beat is matching his energy respectfully, and you hear the reporter go, okay.
I would love to just.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I respect your question.
I respect the question.
But respectfully, I would love to just.
I just love to set that to the side.
Okay.
Okay. Lastly, on the regrets or anything that happened last season, and again, I'm gonna play you the full question and answer here. This is what Uncle Packer was talking about. Romeo Dobbs didn't really want to talk about it.
Rome, come back on it. Do you regret, or maybe even just wish you might have handled things differently? That when you missed those couple of days last year.
Say that one more time.
Do you wish maybe you would handle it differently, or regret anything about just that couple of days last year when you stayed away?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, man. Is there some regret behind that? There is, but obviously, what's in the past stays in the past, and I'm here with y'all just answering these questions to the best of my ability.
So Rome, you're 100% right about that. But we also, all of us, no matter what we do, yes, right or wrong, we take that and then we do something as a result of it. So in what ways moving forward does going through that affect, how you might approach something differently this time around or anything like that? Like, what did you learn from that experience that takes you forward now?
Be a better communicator.
How would you describe your relationship with Jay Reed?
Mike. Mike's like, all right, I'll change the subject. That's fair. Be a better communicator. My gripe with Romeo Dobbs is not that he had, some sort of mental health issue or something that was stressing him or anxiety about this, that, or the other thing. If you can't practice because something's going on or there's something in your life, fine, but you got to call. you can't no call, no show in any job, in any walk of life. Like, they can't be sending people to your house to do a wellness check. Communicate. Yeah. So I think when Uncle Packer and I were talking about that exchange before that last break, we made it sound like he completely blew off the question. He blew off the concussion questions. I think, addressed the no call, no show a reasonable.
I respect your question, but respectfully, I would love to
I'd just like to leave it. Okay. Yeah. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemhead Mike.
Hey, Clemhead. How you doing?
How you doing?
Good. I'm doing excellent. We're answering and asking each other's questions for us. How are you?
Well, I really regret not being able to come see you yesterday in Eau Claire, but my remaining brother, he was having open heart surgery yesterday, so I was kind of sticking around. And
it's probably a good reason to not come see a stupid sports talk show at a golf course. That's an excellent reason to miss. I'll give you a pass on that, I suppose. I hope he's doing okay.
Oh yeah, he's doing fine. So yeah, I feel kind of guilty because I'm 68. My 64-year-old brother died. My 60-year-old brother is having open heart surgery. I say, oh my God, how did I end up being the healthiest guy? It's like a little tiny bit of, guilt here. But
you're the lighthouse of health, the beacon of health in your family, it sounds like.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I've been enjoying your Packer talk. Dobbs, that guy, I don't know, who was that guy that was asking Dobbs those questions? I think his interviewing skills they leave a bit to be desired.
I think it's Wilde. I actually thought with the second follow-up on not showing up, and he's like, okay, but what did you learn and take away from that? I thought that was good, but Wilde, he can be a little long-winded, but look at me. I talk for 2 hours every night. Okay. Yeah. Wilde. I think it was Jason Wilde. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I always hated Mike Greenberg. His questions would be sometimes 5 minutes long.
They're rambling.
And
yeah.
Basically, you're just editorializing instead of asking a question. You're not even really asking the question. You just want to hear yourself talk. So, yeah, I don't like people like that. I like people keep it short and sweet, like you do. When you interview somebody, you don't do the 3-minute long question.
I'm trying. Sometimes I'll slip back into rambling, but ideally, right, if you prepare for an interview or you think about what you want to ask, you should be able to consider about, how do I ask this in the most direct and concise way? But sometimes if you go into an interview, and I occasionally do this, and I don't know what I'm going to ask, then I start to ramble, and that's a problem.
Yeah, you're doing great, Grant. Just enjoying the show. So have a great weekend.
Appreciate it, Clemhead, and best of luck to your brother. Q comments on live stream. Q, why do we always disagree on everything? He says, if you're fighting mental demons, you get a pass in my book. I think it's easy to nitpick, but a little disrespectful to question his ability to pick up a phone when he was in mental distress. You pick up a phone. You pick up a phone. You can pick it's yeah. I'm not trying to be an a-hole. That's part of being an adult is doing certain things. Phoning your employer would be one of those things. Or texting, or like it could be a 10-second phone call. Call the team doctor, call somebody. You can't just lay at home and hide from the world. And that's not that I'm not being unsympathetic to his to whatever was going on. And I don't know that he was struggling with mental health or having some sort of an episode. It might have just been that he was pissed at the team and he handled it poorly. I think Packers fans have done a lot of editorializing of this situation for themselves. Got to call your employer. I'm not going to back off on that. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ridge Runner, Mark.
Ridge Runner. Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't always know why I feel the need to yell when you're on the phone, but I feel like I always do. Sorry about that.
I tend to be a loud person. I get yelled at by my coworkers because when I'm on the phone, I tend to project my voice a little bit louder than I should.
That's okay.
Yeah, right. So sorry I missed you Wednesday, but I get done with work at 5:30, and I drive through that area when I get off work, basically about the time when you're wrapping up. So I didn't even feel like I could stop it. Anyway, two things. The Jordan Love conversation, I was listening to your live stream and you were talking about how you've got these two camps. People either think he's a bust or they want to anoint him as the next Rodgers Favre. Mm-hmm. I think the real problem is there's no measured in between analysis. You're either in the camp of he's perfect and it's great, we paid him a ton of money and we will hear no slander, or those who think he's an absolute dumpster fire and the Packers made a mistake. You, in many cases, you have dialed that back a little bit and have found the middle, but I don't know the loudest voices are even willing to go there. And that's the problem is we're hearing a lot of either one or the other. And that's just frankly annoying for the people who are like, I don't know yet. That's where I'm at. We just don't know yet. Yes, he's been in the league for 5 years. Yes, he's played under center for 2 years. But last year he was injured. And as you pointed out succinctly, wide receivers did him no favors. And the defense didn't do him any favors because they were still figuring out what the heck they're doing with a new defensive team.
I don't know. I thought the defense was pretty good the final month of the season. They weren't otherworldly, but I don't think they were. Right. It's not like they were leaking oil like last year. In the final year of Joe Barry, they had a horrible game against who was it? Where they just got Bryce Young and the Panthers, and then there was another bad game, and then they got the train on the tracks. For the most part, the defense in the final month of the season, the last 2 years, has actually been pretty darn good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think with Joe Barry, what we saw was a lot of up and down, like really good games and then just dumpster fire games when it comes to defense. And you can blame Barry for that. You can blame the team. You can blame whoever. I would say the other thing I wanted to bring up was the conversation about Romeo Doubs. I think what we also need to point out, mental issues or not, it's the same as being sick. If someone is sick, they're sick, and they need to be treated accordingly. And if it's mental health issues, that's still someone being sick. It's still the same as straining a knee or, pulling a quad or breaking your leg or whatever degree you want to point it to. It's the same, and it should be treated the same. Now, you bring up a valid point. Was it mental health? Was it him just being pissed? In a way, if he's like super angry to the point that he doesn't want to come into work, that's still mental health in a way.
Sure.
And he definitely learned communication. And you're right. You have to talk to who you're working for. You have to let them know. So,
yeah, I don't think in 2025, I appreciate it, Ridge Runner, an NFL team is going to completely and totally blast their player and punish them for going through something and feeling like they can't come to work. Just got to let them know, right? Especially in today's day and age, you know how many resources are available to those NFL teams and doctors and psychologists and just like there's a support system there. I also, and by the way, this is in the past, and I don't expect anything from Romeo Doubs on this front moving forward. We're just talking about it because we played the sound bites. So I'm not going to continue to rip Romeo Doubs on this forever, but it's come back up because we were listening to a little bit of the press conference. And honestly, thank Uncle Packer. Uncle Packer's the one who brought it up. So yell at Uncle Packer. Don't yell at me. I don't know that we ever got confirmation that it was any issue related to mental health. He said, well, I had some things going on. That thing could have been, I was pissed at Matt LaFleur because he had been putting me in the game plan, which is a fine frustration to have. Doesn't make him a bad guy, but you can't then just stay home and not let anyone know and then come back and say, well, I had some things going on. Well, if the thing was you being pissed at your boss, then deal with that or address that or go through the proper channels. You can't stay home until the team comes to do a wellness check on you. It's not how that works. 608-321-1670. One more segment of your calls and texts and comments on the live stream on whatever, Packers or Brewers or anything. And then Ryan Glasspiegel going to join us for the final segment of the show. That'll be a fun way to wrap it up with a little Jimmy Buffett here on a Fins Up Friday. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage Friday night. It's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. I'm going to chat with Ryan Glasspiegel from Front Office Sports here in just a couple minutes for our final segment. Little Jimmy Buffett, too. How lucky is Ryan gets to join us the final segment of a Friday show? It's almost like being invited into the NBA lounge. It's a rare space. A lot of people get to swim in those waters. Couple more minutes if you want to jump in with a final thought on the Packers or the Brewers. We've been talking a little bit about Romeo Doubs just because he spoke with the media, and I thought he acquitted himself very well. Uncle Packer was talking a little bit and referencing some questions and some answers about his suspension away from the team for a week last year. He also talked about the concussions without really talking about the concussions. what do doctors tell you? And do you expect this to be a recurring thing? And when were you cleared? And blah, blah, blah. And he's basically like, I'm not, I respect the question, but I'm not going to go there. And I thought gave a fine answer about his suspension last year too. But very fair and reasonable. He shared a little bit. He didn't need to go on and on about it. I thought he more than gave answers. And I don't think he owes anything to anybody a year later. If it doesn't happen again and he continues to ball out, like I think by the end of the year, if him and Jordan Love have a connection and he appears to be the lead dog on this team, like I'm going to advocate for the Packers to extend him and keep him around. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Coyote Mike.
Hey, Coyote Mike. What's
Colorado.
going on?
Oh, I just thought I'd check in since it's Friday. And Romeo Dobbs, yeah, he's got, I don't know if I'd say he's got some issues, but he's kind of different.
He is different. He's unique. And Mike Clemens even went so far as to say the other day, like, if he wants to be around in Green Bay long term and he wants a deal, like, he might need to tweak his personality or his approach to certain things. I don't think Mike was advocating that Romeo Dobbs become a brand new person. It wouldn't be fair. But basically saying, like, yeah, sometimes communication or certain things are difficult. And when you're considering paying a player more than $20 million a year, that's part of it.
Yeah. And people want to get a little feedback, not just this cookie cutter. Some of those answers that he was giving, you could tell I thought he was almost coached into what to say.
Well, yeah. And on the concussions, I don't really care. Like, I'm not a doctor. He's not a doctor. Was he going to go over x-rays and CTs with us? What's he going to say?
Yeah. So Brewers, how do you think they're going to do this weekend?
Well, I just hope they can continue to carry some of this mojo. I think Churio and Yelich are still the two big pieces. If those two can continue to hit the way they've been hitting, I think a lot of the rest of this stuff takes care of itself. You know what I mean? Then the bullpen isn't worked so hard and the rest of the lineup isn't stressed and asked to do so much. It really just starts with them, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest hang up, is they just haven't been able to keep the momentum going. Now they're on a streak here. This last couple of weeks has been good. So I'm looking forward to them getting back to where they were kind of last year. And I think we could really see a pennant race coming down here at the end of August between them and the Cubs, unfortunately.
That would be ideal. I mean, the Cubs they're just such a better offense, just a way better offense.
Yeah, but doesn't Craig Counsell, the last few years he was with the Brewers, he seemed to kind of fizzle out as a manager the last couple of years there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't he kind of undermanage a little bit, or
I don't know.
I just remember those few seasons where they just kind of tanked it that one year. They had the lead, and then he just kind of padded it and took his foot off the gas, and they've gotten the playoffs and got bounced out right away.
There just wasn't a lot of juice there at the end. And sorry, I'm up against Coyote Mike. Text if you have anything else to say, and I'll get it into the show because I want to get to Ryan Glasspiegel with enough time to chat for the last 10 minutes. I think edge and attitude and vibes are much more important to the Pat Murphy Brewers than they were to the Craig Counsell Brewers. I think this team needs to play a certain way and to carry themselves a certain way. And because they haven't been able to string wins together, they haven't been able to find that. Well, now they've strung wins together. And Coyote Mike saying, well, they haven't been able to sustain anything. Well, we just saw it for the first time all year, winning 13 of 15 or whatever it's been. 12 of 15, 11 of 15. This has been their best stretch. So to keep it going this weekend and into this 10-game homestand, I think their attitude and their energy and their approach, that's a big part of it. And this is maybe the first time all year that they've been able to dial it up because they finally won some games. I think the attitude and the edge, as Pat Murphy calls it, much more important to this younger, kind of more ragtag version of the Brewers, as opposed to probably the more cookie-cutter version of the Brewers that Craig Counsell is managing for the last 2 or 3 years, where the energy just, I think it was what it was. Let's take our final break of the show, come back, listen to a little Jimmy Buffett. Ryan Glasspiegel, Front Office Sports, going to join us, talk about his story about the NBA Finals and some of the details and some things going into the weekend. Perfect way to wrap up the week next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Not only going out to Wisconsin and the great Midwest, we're going around the world tonight, Parrot Head.
Fins up. It's Friday, last segment of the week on the Wisco Sports Show. Usually my favorite one, little Jimmy Buffett, going into the weekend. We almost never have guests in the spot. We almost never wrap up any show with the guest. But Ryan Glasspiegel, Front Office Sports, is here. So fins up, I will say to Ryan, and congratulations on the end of a work week. I loved your story at Front Office Sports today, because so many people are talking about what's going on in the broadcast right now of the NBA Finals. And I think sometimes it's lame to complain about a broadcast and to bitch about announcers because you always find a way to do it. But it's almost like ESPN is intentionally stripping away the fanfare. It almost seems intentional, right?
I don't know about that. I mean, so what I wrote about ESPN, my piece today, it was kind of twofold. First of all, they haven't had the finals painted on the court in 10 years.
Mhm.
They haven't had the Larry O'Brien trophy at midcourt in 15 years. And then ABC, they skip the national anthem and they skip the player introductions. And you're just kind of foisted right into the game. And it's like, hey, I'd like to bask in the aura of the arena and feel like these games are special. And, you know, it's just in the presentation, both from the league and ABC, ESPN, it doesn't feel like they're going above and beyond to delineate that these games are like for the ultimate prize.
It's weird because they did it for the in-season tournament, and you wrote about that in your story, and they weren't concerned with the playing surface or anything there. So why? That's why I ask. It almost seems intentional.
Okay,
like,
so I got an answer after
Okay.
my story, and that tends to be the case. So you guys, your listeners, Wisco Sports Show is hearing about this for the first time. So the issue is that they used to be decals, and they stopped doing decals on the court. Now you're like, well, why don't they paint it? And so the reason for that they don't paint it is that it doesn't, I guess, dry quick enough or whatever. I find it hard to believe it wouldn't dry in a week, but you know, there are some circumstances where like the conference finals come up within 2 or 3 games of the finals, and then you might not be able to have it dry on the court in time. You're like, okay, well, why don't they have a backup court? So I guess the courts at the different arenas are all different sizes. Like obviously within the lines is the same in every arena in the NBA. There's like a set dimension, but it's not uniform in terms of the baselines and the sidelines. So you can't just have, you know, an NBA Finals court. Plus each team has different ads on the court or whatever. So I guess it's like kind of just a logistical issue where they can't get the finals painted on the court fast enough every year, and so they don't do it.
Because they don't exactly know who's, going to be in the finals. They could make guesses, but you're not going to make up a bunch of courts and just have them in a closet somewhere ready to go. You also wrote about no introductions and the national anthem, which becomes political, but let's just talk about it as like a television product. Is that because of ad space? Because the pregame doesn't feel grand. It just kind of drops you right in, like you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all sorts of issues with these like broadcast networks where like Disney owns the ABC affiliates in a lot of big cities, but then a lot of them are owned by these companies like, like Sinclair Broadcasting or Tegna or whatever. I don't know if they own ABC stations, but these are companies that own local broadcast stations. So like the way that it like works is the national feed gets like a certain amount of ads, and then the local affiliate owners get to sell a certain amount of ads. And like ESPN is paying a fortune for the finals, and that ad space is valuable. So they're basically like running ads while the stuff is happening in the arena.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Ryan Glasspiegel, Front Office Sports, is here. Twitter @Sports Report. Are you guys at Front Office, or is anyone covering all of these new programs that Stephen A. Smith is going to be doing? Now he's going to be on Sirius XM. Like, how much demand is there for Stephen A. Smith? Because the supply has not seemed to reach a limit yet.
I mean, this is an interesting angle of it that I haven't heard people talk about. That time where he's going to be going on Sirius XM, Grant, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 12 to 2 p.m. in our time, that's a competitive window for sports talk. You have Pat McAfee, Colin Cowherd, and Rich Eisen already in that window. And so that is what one industry observer said to me was the quote, deep end of the pool.
Okay. Interesting. So, but he's going to do some politics and some sports. Is there an appetite for Stephen A. Smith, in your opinion, or people you talk to hear him give his opinions on the world? Because he seems to be testing that water a little bit more all the time, throwing takes out or flirting with, political stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's twofold. He's going to have a daily show on Mad Dog Radio in between Adam Shine and Chris Russo. And so that's like a different audience, on Sirius XM 1 to 3 Eastern than his First Take audience. The First Take audience is people who are at home watching TV, whereas the Sirius XM audience, I feel like, is by and large people on the road driving, probably similar to your audience. And so that's like kind of where it's like, okay, he's not stepping on one program with the other in all likelihood. And then the other aspect of it is he's going to have a weekly show where he's talking, quote, current events. So that could be politics or pop culture. He's been doing more of it. Is there an appetite for it? Clearly, Sirius thought so. But I mean, the main thing they're getting him for is his sports show.
So you've had conversations with Stephen A. and people around him. Like, does he just feel like he needs to be on all the time? If I was Stephen A. Smith, it's like at some point I don't want to be on air, but he seems to just like that's what he wants to do all the time.
He wants to make as much money as he can.
Sure.
And he doesn't get tired like talking. He has an unlimited supply. The amount of hours in the day or the amount of time that Stephen A. Smith can be talking. I don't have that capacity. I mean, if I try to do 1 2-hour show, I think I'd be totally worn out at the end of it, but you can do several of them.
Ryan Glasspiegel, 2 more minutes here. So you're a UW-Madison grad, and you're down in Chicago now, but you like coming back to Wisconsin for a couple different places and reasons. But we've talked a little bit. You want to see Morgan Wallen at Camp Randall, and you've been monitoring tickets and everything kind of going on with that show. What have you learned, and what are some of the details that you've found interesting about that show? Because they don't do a lot of shows there.
Our Morgan Wallen connection goes back to when we were in Vegas, and we went to this, I was like, we're going to go somewhere gritty, and I willed it. And we found this line dancing bar that just felt like it was like another universe from anything at least I've ever seen. And they played Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen, and we just vibed to it. And I was listening to him for a little bit before that, but that really kicked it into overdrive. And I want to see him. I feel like he's one of those guys. I don't want to sound macabre, and I don't know if I pronounced the word right, but I feel like he's one of those guys that could die young. And so I don't want to have it be like, oh man, you just missed the shot. So I've been monitoring, and that he's doing a Saturday and a Sunday. The Saturday tickets are outrageous.
Yeah.
And I was maybe even going to do that, but then I looked at Sunday, and you can get like a seat with like a nice sight line for around like $200 after fees, and I feel like that's reasonable for an entertainer of his caliber.
200 without fees is big, and
no, with fees.
Or wait, that's what I meant. Yeah, 200 fees included is yeah, I think that's terrific for that show. And it's a camp rental; they just don't do a whole lot of shows there. So if these are successful, and I mean they're gonna be, we'll probably see a little bit more of that. I would guess.
He's gonna do it twice, and that's nice. It'll be nice. I don't know that it has to be Wrigley and have 15 or 20 concerts this summer, but having 2 or 3 big acts pass through Madison would be great.
Clint Black's playing at Bree Stevens tonight with Megan Maroney with the AmFam Championship. You like any 90s country, early 2000s country?
I love Toby Keith, and I didn't realize that he was like a big Packers fan. I mean, I like Garth Brooks. I don't know about like when stuff is from. Like, I don't know when is like something like that from Tim McGraw. Is that 90s or 2000s? Dust on the Bottle by David Lee Murphy. I don't know what decade that's from, but like I do like poppy country music, and I'm not particularly discriminating about who it's by or what year it was made.
Some people get really protective of country. It's like, if it's not Waylon Jennings, I don't want it. It's like, no, some of the pop stuff is awesome too. Like we don't need to gatekeep country. So I'm with you on that.
No. Look, like what you like, and whatever other people like, if it's not hurting anyone, just let them be. We don't have to act like our tastes are superior in anything,
I like that. Well, we'll talk more about the Morgan Wallen show. Maybe I'll find a way to get there. We'll see. Have a great weekend, Ryan. Thank you.
We're going. I'm manifesting it. Have a great weekend as well.
Yeah, you too, Ryan Glasspiegel. I was texting Ryan about this earlier today because I asked if he wanted to come on. We were talking a little bit about Morgan Wallen, who I'm not a huge fan of, but like that's going to be he's just one of the artists right now. So to see him kind of at his peak would be cool. He played Riverfest in La Crosse in 2019, which now is like, holy balls, that's 6 years ago. But it's cool. La Crosse had 2 artists when I was working there and living there, and that was before I had graduated. Luke Combs played there in 2019 at the Center, and then Morgan Wallen played Riverfest, and it's cool. And I don't know the ins and outs of how talent is booked. Morgan Wallen had whiskey glasses, I think, maybe like Up, Down. He had 1 hit at the time, but people knew who he was, and people went. Nobody thought he would turn into this. And then Luke Combs, he was a little bit bigger. He broke through, I feel like, before Morgan Wallen did. I could be misremembering. But he was booked so far in advance. By the time he was in La Crosse for that show at the Center, he had gotten so much bigger than when he had been booked. And people just raved about that performance. So sometimes, you get a little lucky. Madison, I mean, they're getting full-bore Morgan Wallen. Sunday night show a little cheaper, I guess. Look into that. We'll pick this up on Monday at 4. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend.
What can we say? Thank you all very much. You sure make a